Hello, aspirants, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really sensitive but absolutely crucial topic. It's something that sits right at that tricky intersection of polity, governance, and the environment. This makes it vital for your GS papers 2 and 3. We're going to explore the conflict between religious practices and ecological preservation, a classic dilemma you might just face as a future administrator. So let's get right into our analysis. So what kicked all this off? Well, it was a recent event in Madhya Pradesh. There was this 21-day ceremony at the Padaleshwar Mahadev temple right on the banks of the Narmada River. It all ended in what devotees called a sacred offering. But believe me, this single act sparked a huge national debate. And the scale of this offering, it was just immense. We're talking about 11,000 liters of milk poured straight into the Narmada. Now, while it's rooted in faith, a quantity like that immediately raises some serious questions. To put that into perspective for you, activists pointed out this much milk could have provided 44,000 glasses to children. The social and environmental implications, well, they're simply impossible to ignore. And that brings us directly to the constitutional heart of the matter, a core area for your GS Paper 2. We're looking at what seems to be a clash between two fundamental rights. You see, on one hand, you've got Article 25. This guarantees the freedom to practice one's religion. But on the other hand, there's Article 21, the right to life. And this is key. The Supreme Court has interpreted this to include the right to a clean and healthy environment. So what happens when they conflict? Well, the judiciary has actually given us very clear guidance. Indian constitutional law establishes that Article 25 is not absolute. It can be restricted on grounds of public order, morality, and, most importantly here, public health. Okay, so let's move from the legal framework over to the scientific evidence. Now, for your GS Paper 3 answers on the environment, backing your arguments with data is completely non-negotiable. So let's really analyze the scientific impact of rituals like these. First, a key term you absolutely must know, biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD. Put simply, BOD measures the amount of oxygen that bacteria need to break down organic waste in the water. So a high BOD means high pollution, because it depletes the dissolved oxygen that all the aquatic life needs to survive. And this data, it really shows the crisis we're in. The Central Pollution Control Board, or CPCB, says that water with a BOD below 3 milligrams per liter is considered safe for bathing. Now look at the data for the Yamuna River at Okhla in Delhi. The BOD level recorded is as high as 83 milligrams per liter. That is nearly 27 times the safe limit, which has rendered entire stretches of the river ecologically dead. And look, this isn't just about one incident. There's so much empirical evidence from the CCPB and various studies showing that large-scale events like the Kumbh Mela, Chhat Puja, and idol immersions during Durga Puja and Ganesh Utsav cause a significant rise in BOD and solid waste levels. Think about the heavy metals from paints on idols, or even the daily offerings of milk, oil, and flowers. It all creates a continuous heavy pollution load. So the question is, how has the state responded? This brings us to the governance aspect, which is so crucial for both your GS Paper 2 and 3. Let's take a look at the legal framework and the role of our key institutions. This quote really captures the heart of the judiciary's approach. You see, the courts and tribunals, they aren't aiming to prohibit religious practices. Instead, the real goal is to find a sustainable balance, to make sure that devotion doesn't come at the cost of the very rivers that are so revered. The crucial point here is regulation, not a complete ban. And we can see a clear evolution in this regulatory framework. It started with the Water Act back in 1974, but a major development was the establishment of the National Green Tribunal, or NGT, in 2010. The NGT has been quite proactive, noting the sharp rise in pollution after festivals and then enforcing CPCB guidelines, like the ones for idol immersion that mandate the use of artificial tanks. The NGT has also consistently applied a really powerful legal doctrine here, the polluter pays principle. This is a key word you should absolutely use in your answers. It reinforces the idea that no group, not even a religious one, is exempt from the responsibility of environmental protection. The NGT argues that faith just cannot be a justification for overriding ecological limits. So, where do we go from here? As a future administrator, you won't just be analyzing problems. You'll be expected to provide balanced and practical solutions. This is what we call your way forward. The solution really has to be multi-pronged, just like how you'd structure a good mains answer. First, better regulation with clear, uniform guidelines for all rituals. Second, improved infrastructure at the ghats for waste collection. Third, promoting innovative and eco-friendly alternatives, like artificial ponds. And finally, and this is perhaps the most important piece, community awareness. The change has to come from within the community, fostering a real sense of ecological consciousness.
And we'll leave you with this final thought, a question that could very well show up in your interview or as a case study in your ethics paper. As a district magistrate, faced with this exact situation, how would you balance the delicate task of respecting religious sentiments while also upholding your constitutional duty to protect the environment? Think about the stakeholders, your communication strategy, and the practical steps you would take. It's this application of knowledge that truly defines a civil servant.